So, I want to talk about staying sane while streaming, because it can get wild and crazy out there. I mean, last night I had a crazy stream, and it spun out in ways that I did not necessarily anticipate. And so here I'm going to obey the red light. I'm not going to try to squeeze through. I'm going to stay in my lane, obey the laws. So I stream a lot on YouTube. So perhaps my first responsibility is to obey the laws of YouTube, obey its community guidelines. That means no hatred directed towards any group, nothing that could instigate negative repercussions against any group. Like, YouTube doesn't want their service used to make the world a harsher and more unpleasant place for any particular group. So, as the primary audience for my streams, as the primary theme for my streams is the alt-right, that's a challenge, okay? Because the alt-right is an identity movement for white people. And pretty much all identity movements tend to increase in-group identity and out-group enmity. So keeping this discussion within YouTube's guidelines is a challenge. So last night, the main guy on my show was Kevin Michael Grace. And he's been the main guy on my show for a few weeks. And a longtime friend of mine, who's also a prominent part of my stream, came onto the stream and asked Kevin, are you homosexual? And it's like, that's not what I want in my streams. Where I come from, asking a man if he's homosexual is about the most insulting question you can ever ask someone. Where I come from, being homosexual is worse than being Nazi. So, I mean, not to mention this was directed at a guy who's got 3 kids, but I guess because he has a musical quality to his voice and a dramatic quality to his delivery, there were people in chat wanting to know, is this guy a queer man? To me, it was obvious he was not. But so that question gets asked. So how do I respond? I'm the host. I don't like that question. I don't want that question directed at pretty much anyone in my streams under normal circumstances. So I just let it go. I didn't like the question, but I just let it go. And so I'm not sure how I should have reacted. I had the choice of saying, hey, that question's out of bounds, but then it would have just made it look like I was covering up for Kevin's secret vice. Also, the person who asked it's a friend of mine. I really don't want to interrupt friends of mine and say that their comment or question's out of bounds. So I was kind of hard. And then the discussion moved on, and there were all sorts of personal insults directed at another regular panelist, Claire. And I think someone said, oh, is she really a woman? Is she a tranny? And it's like, whoa, that's not the type of conversation that I want on my stream, particularly not directed towards a regular panelist. I don't like these personal attacks. On the other hand, do I want to shut down the conversation? Am I all eager to use my moderator power to mute people or block people or let them know they're out of line? and I'm reluctant to jump on people. So I didn't like either of those things, but I let them go. And I'm not coming from a place of holier than thou. I've done a ton of trolling over the course of my life. I've said a lot of mean things online. Uh, for all I know, those questions may have been perfectly appropriate, not from where I stand. I don't like personal insults. And my test is, would you say this in real life? Like, what was the last time you asked someone in real life, where it's an open question, where you asked a man, are you a homosexual? Okay, if you wouldn't ask that in real life, what's the reason you come to YouTube? It's to discuss the forbidden, right? It's to have the conversations you can't have in your real life. For example, in real life, nobody listens to me for longer than 30 seconds at a time. On a stream, I can talk for hours, but of course my voice will get tired. But it's wonderful having an audience. It's wonderful having these streams, and part of that it's almost a free, uncensored, anarchic discussion, which is invigorating and exciting, precisely because it's the kind of forbidden discussion that you can't have in real life. So I get that too. So I think the key to staying sane is clarity. I have no control over what other people say on my streams. I can mute them. I can theoretically edit the stream afterwards. I can eject someone. And I have. Like, I don't invite people on my stream if they make me unhappy. So, in fact, sometimes I just block people from commenting on my stream because they just make me unhappy. Sometimes I just block people on Twitter because they just make me unhappy. It's like my life is just cleaner, smoother, easier without them. So one, I can't control anyone else on my stream. I can't control their comments. And so I can't effectively white knight for Kevin, or, I can't white knight for Claire. Not that they need that. So I just have to face my limitations. I like a wide open, free-flowing discussion, and that means there's going to be a lot of things said that I'm not going to like. And so then I also have a choice of telling people, hey, I don't like that kind of comment. So I can either do that publicly, I guess that's what I'm doing now, or I can preferably communicate that privately. And sometimes I've communicated that privately to people on many different occasions. And the people I'm communicating with are friends. So you can communicate what you don't like, and people are still free to ignore you. But we all exert a force field. We all affect the people around us. And so I can't control what people say in my streams. I'm not free from responsibility of what goes on my streams. So I exert a force field, and it's not nearly as strong a moral force field as what someone like Dennis Prager exerts, or some charismatic, powerful, dynamic rabbi exerts. Like, I see Dennis Prager walks into a room and the conversations in that room change. Okay? People don't feel free to be racist around Dennis Prager, or to be sexually crude. Like, Dennis Prager has this very strong moral force field. He's always had that since he was a kid. Like, his father's an accountant, and his father's clients would come over. They'd come over early so they could talk to Dennis. I think Dennis was elected president of his class like every year in high school. Just had that natural leadership, that natural gravitas, that strong moral force field. I don't have nearly as strong moral force field. On the other hand, I do affect or have the ability to affect the speech of people around me, particularly on my stream. And the primary way I do that is by how I conduct myself. So I'm proud that of all the live streams I've done, I've never had to take them down for anything I've said. So I've live streamed, I'm sure, well over 1,000 hours by now, and I've never had to take anything down. I've never said anything on a live stream that I've then regretted. So I think the most effective way to try to exert a moral force field is to embody the type of behavior that I want. So I don't like it when people get triggered. So I try not to get triggered. Sometimes I get excited. Sometimes I get passionate. But I don't want to get triggered. And my definition of triggered means saying and doing things that you regret. So as I've never had to take down a stream because of something I've said, that's on that basis I state I've never been triggered, on a live stream into saying or behaving in ways that I significantly regret. So being calm, that's a big goal for me, and that's how I try to send out a moral force field in that small bit of the world that I have perhaps some influence over. I try to be happy. Try to be a happy guy. And my definition of happiness is you look forward to tomorrow. So I try to build my life so that I look forward to tomorrow. I'm always looking forward to tomorrow, what new things I'll learn, what new things I'll do, what I'll discover, what familiar things that I get to do that I enjoy. So I'm just curious, do you notice the effect that you have on other people? Like when you're around, are you a peacemaker or are you a shit stirrer? I heard that in 12-step. And I've definitely been a stirrer over the course of my life. When my father left Avondale College in Australia, where he was the chair of the religion department, his students gathered to have a party, and they gave him a farewell gift, and they gave him a big wooden spoon because my father is such a stirrer. Like, he's a lightning rod for controversy. Everywhere he goes, controversy erupts. People are in conflict, they're arguing, they're in disputation, and that's pretty much how I spent my life. Like, people would say to me, look, I just want to do my job, get paid, provide for my family. And every time you come around, you're just looking to stir up trouble. So I'd like to think that perhaps moving on from that. So I definitely do try to stir at times with my streams. So I guess my goal in that respect is, who am I stirring? What's the context? What's it about? So yeah, I certainly think in some context stirring is legitimate, is a good thing, makes the world a better place, is entertaining. Brundlefly is terrific at stirring things up, and like, he has a real genius for streaming. I mean, that guy is so good that he could well make his living from streaming. He just knows how to put people together on a show. He was a real compliment. It was great having Brundlefly as a co-host. Also, I've changed as I've aged. I've become less into stirring as I've aged. Like, I've put more of a premium on having a peaceful life. Now I don't want the aggravation. But last night's stream was awesome. I'm not criticizing last night's stream. Last night's stream was great. I loved it. And I'm not at all sure that I'm right in my feeling that we should not ask someone if they're a homosexual. We should not ask someone if they're really particular sex that they're putting forward in the world. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm overly fastidious. It was a great show last night, but it was a great show because the conversation was so free. It went to such at times impolite places, and it was visceral, and I just let someone into my lane because I'm a mensch and I want to exert a positive influence in the world, and I'm showing off. And I guess one way that I can exert a good influence on my streams is try to have my facts correct, to try to make my points clearly and cogently, to recognize when other people make good points, such as we had Manik on the other day, and he made a lot of good points against circumcision. Now, as a convert to Orthodox Judaism, I cannot I cannot agree with him. I certainly cannot sign on to the no circumcision bandwagon, right? No way. But I can recognize when someone, even when our interests diametrically oppose, especially when our interests diametrically oppose, I can recognize when they make good points. And Manic's a wild and crazy guy. Like, I think often he'll say things that are just insane, and then other times he just makes, superb points, just points that I would never have thought of. He will phrase them in ways I didn't think of. He'll have all sorts of insights that I could never arrive at. And when you want people in your life, when you want people in your streams, there's always going to be some tension, and there's always going to be some things that you don't particularly like, because people are a whole package. I can't bring someone onto my stream regularly and say, start restricting their speech too much. It's just not going to work. So you have to, if you're a newspaper editor, you have to give your columnists, for example, room to be wrong with their opinions, or you're not going to get the great stuff. You have to put up with some stuff you don't particularly like in their opinion columns to get the great stuff. And okay, bye-bye.